the aim of this is to show you how quickly it actually is to be able to create these reports. What we can then do is we can then go into some of the out-the-box, like Dev was saying, the out-the-box 100 Cube initiative. I can give you some examples of those, and again, it's one of those plug-and-play situations where if you have a standard data model of Teamcenter, you should just be able to import these reports, and away you go. You'll be able to start consuming the data straight away without a problem. And then what we'll do is we'll move on to the Active Workspace demo. And you'll see how TCRA has been integrated with Active Workspace almost seamlessly. So a lot of the actions that you'll be able to see what I do now, what I demonstrate now, you'll be able to do again within the Active Workspace environment or within that one single window between Teamcenter and TCRA. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Yeah, okay.
Fantastic. So as you can see on the screen, what we've got on the screen at the moment is our build and play interface. So this is where your report designers or your report writers would log into. And as you can see, the interface, we've got the search results of current reports, and we've got our widgets along the top of the screen here. Now, like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a very simple multi-source cube here, and then we'll see how that then transpires into the output of, and then how you can in that data. So the way to think about it is the report process is really split up into two different sections here. One is the creation of the cube behind the report, and the cube basically incorporates all the logic. It incorporates where you want to go and fetch data from. Once you then have that cube, you can then style the report into what we've historically called a definition, and that'll be that'll the thing you would publish out to your user base, and that's how they would consume the data. So the creation of dashboards and things like that, as long as you've got the base cube that pulls all the data that you need, you can then create your several different dashboards or your several different visualizations coming off the back of that. So I'll go ahead and create a simple cube here. So what I'm going to do is create a simple cube that goes off the Teamcenter and collects parts from Teamcenter. I'll then simulate another connection that goes off onto, that could be an Excel sheet, or it could represent a finance system or something like that, and I'll pull some cost information, and I'll marry those together, and then we'll start styling our report to then consume all of that data together. So I'm just going to create a demo cube here. I give my cube a name, and straight away, as you can see, I've got several connections associated with my TCRNA, one of them being Teamcenter, one of them being some purchase data, and I've got a couple of other Centris legacy systems and Excel connections as well. So the cube creation process, it is literally as simple as going in and selecting the connection against what you want to create the report against. And from that connection, I can then read the data model from that connection or the Excel sheets, and then start pulling that into my cube. So what I'm going to do is, because I've selected the Teamcenter connection, I'm going to go off and select all my part revisions, and I'll go into the object or table of Teamcenter of what I want to go into, and I'll search, and as you can see, it's brought back part revision. Now, the good part about this method is that because we read the data model, any customizations that you might have in that data model would also be present here too. So if you had custom objects or custom attributes that you've included into your data model, TCRA, initially when it makes that connection, it will read that data model, and straight away those will be available to you to report against. So what I'll do here is I'll select the part revision, and then I'll just select some simple attributes that I want to select to be part of my report. So just for argument's sake, we'll select the owning group, owning user, the object description, the item ID, and the release status. So again, this is where if you had, for example, custom attributes against your items in Team Center, these would be available to you here to be able to select. And it's as simple as I can click on finish on that now. And what if I run this cube now, what this would do is it would go off to Team Center and return to me all my part revisions, and it would display these attributes that I've selected from that. So what I can then do is I can actually add another view onto this, and this is where I'm now selecting another source to then start joining some data together. So I can create another measure view, and this is going to be actually cost-related data. So we'll just rename this into cost data. We'll select a group in which to save it into, which helps organize things within TCRNA. And I can select a different connection. So this time I'm going to select my purchase data connection. And as you can see, when I create this, this will give me a very similar dialog box. But when I then search on my objects or tables on this connection, you can see it returns to me my Excel sheets that are currently linked into that one single connection. So I will give my cube a name, or my measure view a name, and I will select my purchasing information. And similarly like I did with my Team Center connection, I'm just going through on that source and selecting the attributes that I want to be shown in my report. So in this particular connection, I've got the part number, I've got information about unit cost, I've got information about the inventory quantity, and information about the purchasing supplier. So if I finish this and run this report, hopefully this will become a lot clearer about what I've then just gone and done. So now I've got my two sources of information. I've got my information coming from Team Center. I've got my cost information coming from Excel. This will then allow me to go into the Cube tab. As you can see, we have our two sources of information, one being Team Center and one being our cost information. What the system will do is it will intelligently look through the data and try and map the data together by itself. But we know in this instance, for example, our object ID in Team Center automatically maps over to our part number in our sheet, our Excel sheet. So now we have our two sources of information. As you can hopefully see, the speed in which we then created those and picked out the attributes we wanted to see in our report, we can go ahead and run this report. And what that'll do is it will go off to our Team Center connection and bring back our information about our individual parts from Team Center. And as you can see on our grid view on the bottom of this report here, we also have unit cost and inventory quantity and supplier details all being shown on the same row coming from our Excel sheet. So that's just a very, very quick way of showing you how we can create these multi-source reports. And this is the default view that when you run the report, what the TCRA will do is it will automatically generate a chart view as well as a grid view there. Now the chart above is being created on an algorithm that it's looking through the data for the least amount of distinct values within the data. It will then plot those against your chart there. So now we have our base cube. As we've saved that, we've saved and run it. We've saved the cube in the background. We can now start to manipulate how we then see this on the screen. Now, like I said, this is our base view, but what we do have in the tool is we have what we call templates. So you can define different templates. So, for example, if you have a number of different styles to the reports that are quite consistent throughout the organization, you can define a new template, and then you can apply that report template as you'd see. So out the box, we come with a default template of one where you have the chart on the top and the grid view on the bottom. We just have one of the grid view. As you can see, once you've defined the templates of how you want it to look, it's very easy to then, once you have the base cube in the background, you can then restyle it very quickly if you've automatically define the template. So what I'll do is, now we have our base cube and the data that we want to show, we now want to start then visualizing that in perhaps more of a dashboard type way. Now, the way this new version of TCRA works is it all works on widgets, and all these widgets can be found along the top tool panel of the report builder screen just up here. And as you can see, we have a vast array of charts in which we can now start visualizing this data. They go from column, pie charts, tree maps, line series charts, etc., going forward from there. So let's go ahead and let's drag some of these charts. So the way TCRA works, it's all drag and drop. So whatever you want on as part of your report, you can just select it from the available widget. For example, if I select a pie and place a pie in here, I can drag it onto the report area, and this will automatically plot that chart as part of my report. So as you can see very quickly there, because I've got my base cube in the background with my data, I can then start visualizing this data in a dashboard, in a dashboard fashion. We can drag other things like the cube gives us our table of information along with our report. What we can also do is we can also start building up hierarchy in our reports. Again, that's done very, very simply. So we have on our left here what we call the cube panel. And this has all our attributes available to us that we selected from our cube. As you'll notice, there's item ID, object description, owning group, and so on. What I can very easily do is I can drag, for example, the supplier up to our dimensions, and what this will do is it will create a brand new dimension that I can then start using in my report. Now, if I were to take that one step further and take, for example, our owning group and drag it up to our supplier, what this would do is it would automatically create me a hierarchy within my report. So it's giving me the supplier by owning group. Once we have our dimension, we can then drag these onto the charts. And because we're now building hierarchy into our charts, this immediately makes our charts interactive and drillable. So we can see now this re-renders our charts in accordance to our hierarchy. So it's showing us the supplier. If we drill into the supplier, we can now see our owning groups and so forth. So wherever we've dragged this hierarchy into, our charts become drillable, and we can see by the selections we're making. We can also take our other attributes that we have in our report, and we can add those to the report. So for example, at the moment our bar chart is being shown with the unit cost on the y-axis. Now if I add another measure into here, as you can see, we're now plotting the quantity as well as the unit cost on our bar chart. So hopefully this gives you the sort of idea of the kind of speed of which you can start manipulate. So this is why it's quite important, why we say it's quite important. As long as you've got your base cube, as long as you're fetching the information that you want to display into your report, the manipulation of that information and then the visualization of that information, as you can see, has become very, very simple within TCRA. We have different tabs along the top, so you can have a report that consists of many tabs. So you can have as many tabs as you want, or as fewer tabs as you want, just by deleting them. So what we'll do is we will remove any of the redundant tabs. Now we have our base dashboard that we have here. We can go ahead and save this. and we'll save it as our parts dashboard. And we'll just pop that into our category so we can find it later. Okay, so now you've seen how easy it is to create the multi-source report. What we can then talk about just quickly here is going on to some of the semantic concepts and the semantic ontologies that have been built into TCRA.
One question. In this demo, sorry to interrupt you, but in this demo you have like 7 or 8 attributes that you can play with. In our case, we might have, I don't know, hundreds of attributes. One coming from Team Center, others coming from SCP, and so on. Is there any way to organize this list of attributes so there is not a list of 100 attributes in the left panel?
Yes, absolutely.
So this depends on how you create the cube. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is dependent on what's been created in the cube. So if I go back into my semantic mapper, everything that's shown in this panel on the left-hand side is actually shown because I've actually got it selected in my cube that I want to show it into my report. So you could obviously have these attributes but not necessarily want to show them. So you could remove them as measures just in your cube design here. So if I take off something that is not part of my hierarchy, for example, so I've taken away object description, for example, here.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see now on the left, it's been removed. Now it's still going off, and I can still use object description if I wanted to use it in my report somewhere, because it's still going off and taking that data. However, it's not shown on this screen for me to then start visualizing it from. I can also add additional measures if, for example, I wanted to then start massaging or do some sort of calculations on the data. I can add additional measures where I can then take some of my existing attributes and perform actions on those. Maybe some calculations against 2 attributes, etc. Going from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So as Dev was saying, the way I was creating that initial cube was in the native view. So I was going directly to each object that I wanted to go to then scoop up the attributes that I wanted to go to. What we've also got is we've also got the semantics or the semantic ontologies that have been built into TCRA. Now, the theory behind these is you don't necessarily need to know the underlying data model to be able to then start producing reports. Now, like Deb was saying, the concept of a BOM in Team Center is not a single object. A BOM is actually a collection of objects together related by so many relations. Now, to make a BOM report from Team Center, historically you'd need to know which objects you'd want to go and interrogate, and then you'd need to know what relations and how those objects are related to each other. Now, the use of the semantics and the semantic modeler completely removes the need for that. So, for example, if I go ahead and create my just a fresh new cube, as you can see, we have a semantic tab here in which I can give my initial source a name. So what we'll do is we'll pull out an eBOM, and in my object or table, I can then put a search term in to what I want to then pull back in terms of a BOM. So I can just search here, quite simply, a BOM. And in my semantic tab, as you can see, what's returned is we have got semantic concepts already deployed for an as-built BOM, an as-maintained BOM, an engineering BOM, and a manufacturing BOM. Now, all these ontologies that have been built into TCRA are all done in line with existing standards like the W3C, OWL, and the RDF global standards. So these are global recognized standards for what the interpretation of these things are. And as you can see, if we go ahead and select an engineering BOM now, our creation of our report becomes very, very simple because, for example, if we go to the attribute screen, it automatically gives me a number of attributes that I think that I would want to see from an engineering BOM. Now, obviously, we can select all the attributes that, or any of the attributes that are on any of the objects that make up this BOM. And we can also apply filters to our BOM as well. So it gives us a predefined list of available filters that we can automatically select to be part of our report. So by this, if we, for example, pop in part number and revision rule and click finish, you can see all I did there was I came into the Q panel, I searched for a BOM, I selected 2 filters, and straight away within perhaps, what was that, maybe a minute or so, I've got my ability to run a report that will then go off to Team Center and fetch the entire BOM with filters as well. So this gives me a single node on my canvas. I can go ahead and run this report. I've selected 2 filters, so I'll get a screen now that pops up. And as you can see, on one of my filters, it's actually automatically created me a lookup filter. So because I've selected revision rule, as part of my semantic concept, we're saying, okay, so if we're selecting a revision rule as a filter, we can have this as a lookup filter. So what this has actually done is it's gone over to Team Center and fetched back to me all my available revision rules that I can select from Team Center that I want to then view this BOM by. I can give an example part number to run the report against. And straight away, as you can see, I have now a BOM report on the screen that's traversed through the recursive relationship. It's given me my top level part with all my sub-level parts underneath it. Now, hopefully that should give you a good idea of the semantic concepts. In stock comparison, if I were to build this in the native view, for example, or if you wanted to pull out a BOM report from Team Center, you would essentially need to know about all these objects. So if I transform the background of this, and just quickly rearrange this on screen so you can see it a little better. As you can see, the BOM in a Team Center is actually made up from these objects and these relationships. Is that okay? Can everybody see that okay?
It's okay, we can see.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So yeah, so again, it's the ease of getting that base cube, in making that base cube. Obviously, as long as you've got the attributes and you've got the sources where you want to connect up to, as you can see, if you can imagine, we could potentially pull the BOM from Team Center. It automatically goes and gets me my objects from Team Center that I want to show. We'd have a similar concept in SAP of a BOM. The BOM doesn't exist in SAP, but as a semantic concept it can do. We could then pull that and do costed BOMs, we could do BOM comparisons, etc. going forward. As long as you've got the base cube there, you'll obviously give you your attributes. You can then start visualizing this data, again using the charting widgets, however you wish. Okay, is that okay for the cube? That concludes the report creation side to the demo. Is there any questions that anybody has on this?
No, from my side. This is Apple.
No further questions from here.
No questions? Okay, so I'll continue. So the next part of the demo is just to show you how a few different ways of how we can actually then consume this data, how you can then publish these reports out to consume this data. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly save this data for this purpose. Okay. And one way in which your user base can consume the reports is via a portal. So by this we mean it's literally a window into tCRNA in which they will be able to select the report and run the report from. So once you have your base report, as you can see, I've gone in to create a simple portal. Again, this is all based on the widget theory, in that we have a number of standard widgets along the top here. You can then start dragging these down into the workspace to then quickly build up your portal. So you're able to insert things like logos and pictures into here. As you can see, we have a category section along the top. And the idea behind this is the way we've created this with these widgets, you should hopefully see that it's now very easy to start building up a portal. So for example, if we only wanted a single category, we could very easily remove existing categories. And then into our category, we can assign our reports. So it's just as simple as adding reports. We can search where we saved our reports into. What we'll do is we'll add the two reports that we've just created in our earlier demo. Now, in doing so, what this has now done is it's now given me a drop-down menu with the two reports that we've created. Now, we have a report area in the middle of the screen here. So if I go into preview mode, it's very quick and simple in terms of our portal, but you can start to get the idea that if you publish the portal to the users, it's just a web page where people go in and log in. They can be presented with a list of reports, of which, in clicking them, it can go off and load the report into the screen. Now in the portal, likewise, if we have hierarchy included into our visualizations, this is fully interactive. And we can then start to drill and interrogate the data to as we want to see it. So this is more for the consumers of the data. We have a number of different widgets we can add on here. If I just expand the list here, as you can see, we have things like slideshows, images, texts. You can add data tables where you can roll up your figures and show it. So a vast array of different options here of how you can then style to then present your reports back to the end user base.
Mm-hmm.
Is this okay? Is there any questions here?
Little question here. In one of our reports, it's clear that we have to update some information once we run the report, or at the same time, let's say. It's kind of a free text thing. I guess this can be used, this can be added in both places, once in the report and then in this portal capability, right? So my question is, can we add a free text, I don't know, option, place where we can update some information, some, you know, like the typical comments or free comments within a report. Is it possible?
So, sorry, if I understand your question correctly, is it free text that will always be included on that particular report, or would it be free text for any of the users to append onto?
And it will be free text for any of the users. I run the report because, so I imagine that I see this pie chart, which is okay, fine, and then I have to, I don't know, share this info with someone, and I have to include some comments because I have to explain why in this pie chart we have so many red, I don't know, things. So I include a text field here and say, okay, this is red because of this, 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 and this. So then I just can share the report with whoever. Is that possible?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It would obviously depend on the level of user access, because to be able to do that. So the scenario I have in my head, please correct me if I'm wrong, is you would potentially want to append some text onto this and then maybe export the report to then send on to maybe into Excel or into PDF or PowerPoint or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's essentially the way you do that is we do have a text widget here where you could put in text onto this. So you could have your users absolutely append text on top of the report, and then that would then become part of the report definition. If you didn't want it to become part of the definition, you could save just the report as a snapshot, which just would be a static point in time with the free text on it as well. So yeah, that is absolutely possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that gives you one idea of how we can publish these reports to the user base. We're slowly coming on to the active workspace integration, which is another way we can present the reports back into the user base. But before we get onto that, what I'd first just like to show you is just some of our some examples from our 100-Cube initiative, just to give you an idea or a flavour of the sorts of reports we've already created. That, like we were saying, if you have a standard data model of Team Center, you'll be able to deploy them and run them straight away. Even if you don't have a standard data model in Team Center, there's a little work that just needs to go in, but the reports can absolutely be changed to align with the custom data model, and you can still utilize these pre-written reports as you like.
Okay, only one thing. Within the active workspace part, we are not ready. We see in our scope the active workspace won't be ready. So maybe we can focus on this first part, as you said, and then later on, some other day, we can review the active workspace part. Okay.
Okay. Maybe what I can suggest is, sorry, Ross. Maybe what I can suggest is that we take a look at the reports rather than the active workspace itself. You know, it just takes a few seconds to get into active workspace, but thereafter let us just concentrate on the types of reports that we have there, which will give you an idea of not necessarily AWS, but the reports itself.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Okay, so we have a few examples of from the 100-Cube initiative that I can show you here. These are mainly based around the schedule management module there. So there'll be all the data is based around schedule. So the first one, we'll jump straight into it, is the schedule task. The schedule tasks overview, which the report will go off into Team Center and report back the status of all the scheduled tasks there. As you can see, we have a number of scheduled tasks that are completed, not started, etc. We have it across projects. So we've got a collection of each of the projects here. And as you can see, we can very easily drill into our data just at the bottom here to give us a full understanding of the individual scheduled tasks that fall into those categories. So very quickly, you wanted to know the overall status of things like scheduled tasks. It's there, it's ready, and go ahead and run that. So the next one we can see is the resource workload report. So if we run this one, what this will do is it will report back to us the resource utilization of our users from within Teamcenter. As you can see, we've also got conditional formatting on this report where we can see which users are overutilized and which users have some slack in the periods of time. So we can see that in certain given months, we can see that this user has an overutilization. Okay, so the next report that we can see is the schedule versus actual report.
Yeah, so we can interact. I just wondered if you could show us, when you think it's possible, how you deal with traffic lights. When you have a value, if its value is exceeded, then maybe the traffic light color changes. So I understand that this capability is available, and we would like to see how it works.
Yeah, so that's similar to the report I've just shown you in the conditional formatting in that sense. So we can see that, sorry, if I can go back to that report. Into this resource workload report. So as you can see on this grid view here, we actually have conditional formatting that if it exceeds a certain value, it colors it a different shade.
Yeah.
So this is all done with
We have an example of a report which Varsha has done, which actually shows the image of a traffic signal, which is green, yellow, red, which I can capture the screen and then send it across to you perhaps after this call.
Okay, that would be a good thing, because it's okay to see that the conditional format works here, but I would like to know if you can translate that into individual traffic lights. So if you take one of the columns here, so you choose one of the columns and you want to know the exact traffic light of one of these cells, I would like to know how it translates in
so basically, sure. Basically, you can put it any which way you want. You can choose whatever image you want, and on top of the image you can show whatever colors you wish to show. So it's basically whatever you can imagine should be possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So another one of our standard reports is the schedule versus actual report. So this will show us exactly what it says in the title. It's schedules versus actuals. It will give us two charts as well as a grid view. And again, we'll have the ability to drill in and drill out of this data. Is there any other questions that anybody has about any of the other parts of the demo? What we can do is we can also log into Active Workspace. Sorry, Dev, I think we've got a couple of errors here as well, sorry.
Well, this is Abel. One question. When you define a report like this and you publish it, then the report is like a picture. It's not moving, because I don't know if when in Team Center things are going on, you know, these
Yes.
new updates to the report, or with the picture is a frozen report at once, you know.
So we have the option for both, actually. So
Okay.
you can save the report as just a template. So every time the report is selected, it goes off the Team Center and fetches the data fresh.
Okay.
Or you can then save the output as a snapshot, which is the static point in time.
Okay. Yeah, because then if you make some comments, as Javier said, free text comments, these free text comments should be done over a snapshot report, not an online report, because then this text might change. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It would be
absolutely.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so I think on that we will go into the Active Workspace demo if nobody else has any other questions. The Active Workspace, what we'll do is we'll concentrate on the types of reports and the types of actions of what you can do as well. I think it would be quite beneficial. Right, I don't know if anybody, can everybody see that okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it as well.
Okay, so what I've actually done here is I've logged into Active Workspace. As you can see on the top banner, this is the Siemens Active Workspace. I've gone through to the Reports tab and the Analytics tab, which I will go back and show you in a few seconds. And I've loaded up one of the reports that's been deployed into Team Center, which is a structure management dashboard. So again, this is the type of report that we have been creating as part of the 100 Cubes initiative. And as you can see, that the report is shown here directly within Active Workspace. So we have a structure management dashboard. So this shows the 4 quadrants of the report, from throughput, quality, cost, and schedule performance. And this is reporting against 3 projects, showing us the information for each of the quadrants there. Now, the good thing about, again, within Active Workspace, if we have got drill up, drill down capabilities into this does give me the ability to fully manipulate these reports within this interface. So, for example, if I can see on our schedule performance, if we want to interrogate a given project, we can do so. That will give us the breakdown against each week. We can then drill further into that, and that will give us the breakdown into each department in this case. And we can see that this particular department in the middle here, we've got quite a high number of late parts there. So we can interrogate that further to get the individual part numbers to what this report is corresponding to. So as you can see, we've started out from a very high level overview to instantly then drilling down into the part each level. What we can then do is we can go directly to one of these parts. So we've gone from seeing the information at a high level, identifying where the problem might be, to going straight into the part where we can potentially take an action from there. So again, in Active Workspace, against each item we have an Analytics tab here, which then allows us to give in-context reports.
In context reports.
So if we can load up the analytics tab, we can see we've got a number of different reports we can run against this particular part number. So for example, if I take the BOM report and run the BOM report, when this loads, it will take the ID to the part number that we were just on and use that as a filter in this particular report. So as you can see, we've gone from the part now to running a fresh new report by taking the part number, the 008 part number, and using that in a filter, and we've actually produced an actual versus budgeted multi-system, cross-system report. So as you can see, we've got a BOM report here that's pulling data from not only Team Center, but also a finance system, because we've got budgeted amounts and actual amounts, and presenting that all in the interface of Active Workspace. Now, the other good thing about this is here we have the report options button. I don't know if you can see that just in the top right hand corner here. And as you can see, in selecting the report options button, it gives us a number of different options we can actually take on this report. So we might want to, for example, export this to PDF. We can export the whole report to PDF and give it some options. We might want to similarly export it to, for example, PowerPoint. We can also do so. And in the background, that's producing us the files to our report that we can then see the report in those different formats. Okay, now if we come back into this, so I've just lost my toolbar here. There we go. So if we come back into our Active Workspace page here, what you can also see is we have an Edit Report button just on the end here. Now if I click that, what you'll now see is you'll see a similar screen to what we saw in the TCRA Build and Play screen. So this gives us, for example, our widget options along the top, and it gives us our attributes that we have in our report along the side. So right here in Active Workspace, we can actually start changing this report should we want to. We can manipulate the report, we can change the look and feel of the report, we can change the hierarchies that this chart is shown by. So we've got a number of different options we can actually do right here within the Active Workspace screen as well. So going back to the Active Workspace home screen, as you can see, we have the report tile directly on the home screen. We have the analytics button. We have a number of different reports we can run. Likewise, you can pin those reports directly onto the home screen like we have done with the Structure Manager. Another one of our standard reports is our Change Manager dashboard. So what this reports back is counts and numbers of changes within the system. And as you can see, this breaks it down into the monthly of how many open and closed changes we've got. We have the individual change numbers on the right-hand side, and we have the length and the cycle time of the changes in the bottom left-hand quadrant of the report. So hopefully this will give you the sort of idea and the sorts of types of reports that we have got as our standard reporting as well, and the sorts of navigations and interactions you can have through the different interfaces, such as Active Workspace or either through the portal. Does anybody have any questions regarding what's just been shown?
Only one technical question. Both in TCRA and this active workspace, we show the capabilities of exporting to PDF, to PowerPoint, and so on. Is there a possibility of creating this, what everyone is calling this live PDF, when you can scroll down, not scroll, you get into the, different dimensions and so on? I mean, I'm asking you this because of what are the capabilities of using these reports working offline? You know, how can we export reports that can be, I don't know, coming from a summary, get into the details with different hyperlinks within the same PDF file or something like that, so we can send the reports to people that are traveling and they are not capable of connecting to Teams.
No, that is something that we have consciously not done. In fact, most of the customers have gotten back to us and said that, you know, we want the single truth, and that is the reason why they choose not to have an offline report. But your requirement seems to be a little different from that. But we have deliberately not done that. For some of the customers, we've done a customization by which they can have 3D PDF. But we haven't had an active PDF where you can drill down into the PDF. What it does here is you can drill down to the lowest leaf level and then take your PDF snapshot and then give it out to people. But essentially, the PDF will be a static one.
Okay. Okay.
Because we are trying to promote people using the same single truth, so you know, it's just a way that you might want to look at. This can be used from an iPad. We have an iPad app that can be used, or pretty much anything that can run HTML5. And generally speaking, these days, internet is ubiquitously available to everybody.
Okay. Answer. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No from here. Thank you. No more questions.
Yeah, from here it's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that's what we had planned. Unless there's any other to see. And if we have that, we could show that, or maybe plan another time that we could show you something very specific.
Javier, do you have additional questions?
No, not from here.
Okay, then I can see, Dev, that you are going back to the PPT to give.
Not really. We've come to the end of the presentation altogether. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for the time. And
thank you, everyone. And it was a good thing to show again